I know who did it, and I forgave them. Angela Brooks' voice didn't shake, but the room did. Cameras froze mid-click. A reporter's pen hovered above paper. Someone in the back whispered, "What?" Angela didn't look at them. She stared straight ahead, eyes dry, hands still. That was the part that felt wrong. No anger. No tears. Just stillness. The silence stretched too long. Then the sound came back all at once. Questions fired. Flashes burst. But she didn't answer a single one. Because none of them had seen what she saw. Not that night. Not under those lights. Red and blue strobed across the wet pavement. A girl stood alone on the sidewalk. Small frame. Hoodie pulled tight. Lila Brooks. 14. She kept her hands where they could be seen. That mattered. Or it was supposed to. A patrol car door slammed. Footsteps. Quick. Heavy. One officer spoke first. Calm, but too sharp. Another voice followed. Lower. Tighter. Something in the air shifted. Lila said something back. Quiet. Careful. It didn't land the way she hoped. A passing car slowed, then sped up again. No one stopped. That mattered too. The streetlight flickered above them. Just once. Like it hesitated. Then everything moved faster. Orders. Movement. A hand reaching out. Lila stepped back. Not far. Just enough. It was enough to change the tone. You could feel it. The moment something crossed a line no one named out loud. One officer glanced at the other. A pause. Too short. Then they closed the distance. The body cam light blinked once. Then went dark. That didn't make sense. Not here. Not during this. Somewhere down the block, a door cracked open. A figure stood in shadow. Watching. Not stepping in. Not yet. Back on the sidewalk, Lila's voice rose. Not loud. Just firm. Like she was trying to be understood. The kind of voice that should slow things down. It didn't. The radio on an officer's shoulder crackled. Static. Then silence. Even that felt off. Time didn't stop. But it dragged. Seconds stretched thin. Shoes scraped against concrete. Fabric pulled. Breath hitched. And then, nothing clear. Just fragments. Motion. Confusion. A shape lowering. A shape not getting back up. The streetlight steadied again. Like it decided to stay out of it. Sirens approached. Not urgent. Just routine. That was worse. Because nothing about this was routine. One officer stepped back. Hands on hips. Breathing hard. Another looked down. Then away. No one spoke for a second. Not one word. That was the loudest part. The body cam stayed off. Across the street, the shadowed figure shifted. Took one step forward. Then stopped. A phone lifted slightly. Not recording. Not yet. Like they were waiting for something. Or someone. Later, the report would say non-compliance. It would say necessary force. Clean words. Simple lines. But the pavement still held the truth. You could almost see it in the way the water pooled near the curb. Darker in one place. Spreading slowly. No one mentioned that. Not in the report. Not in the first statement. Not even in the second. By the time the ambulance arrived, the scene had already decided what it wanted to be. Controlled. Quiet. Explained. Lila didn't move. Not once. One officer finally spoke. Low. Measured. "We're writing this clean." The other nodded. Too fast. Too certain. Like the decision had already been made before anyone said it. Across the street, the figure in shadow lowered the phone again. They had seen enough. Or maybe not enough. It was hard to tell. Because some details only mattered later. And this was one of those nights. The kind that looks small from far away. Until it isn't. Angela wasn't there when it happened. Not on that street. Not under that light. But something about that night was already moving toward her. Quiet. Unstoppable. Like it had her name on it before anyone said it out loud. And somewhere, in a file that wasn't supposed to exist, one piece of it didn't disappear. The hospital hallway smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. The lights were too bright. Too clean. Angela Brooks stood at the end of the corridor, fingers locked around her phone, knuckles pale. She had not moved in 10 minutes. Maybe longer. Time felt wrong here. A nurse passed by without looking up. Shoes soft against the tile. No one said her name. That felt wrong too. Behind the double doors, a machine beeped in a slow, steady rhythm. Too steady. It did not match the storm building in her chest. A doctor pushed through the doors. Mask lowered. Eyes tired. He stopped when he saw her. Just for a second. That pause said everything. Angela stepped forward before he could speak. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough to close the distance. "She is stable," he said. Careful. Measured. The kind of words practiced 1,000 times. Angela nodded once. Stable. That word hung in the air. It sounded like safety. It was not. The doctor continued. He mentioned swelling. Monitoring. Time. Always time. Angela heard the words, but they slid past her. Something was missing. She felt it. A gap in the story. "What happened?" she asked. Her voice came out flat. Not broken. Not raised. Just flat. The doctor hesitated again. There it was. Another pause. "The report says there was an incident," he replied. Says. Not happened. Angela caught that. Small detail. Big meaning. She looked past him, through the glass panel in the door. Lila lay still. Tubes. Wires. A thin blanket pulled up to her chest. Her hoodie was gone. That detail hit harder than anything else. Angela took a step closer to the glass. Her reflection stared back at her. Eyes dry. Lips tight. Something shifted inside her. Not grief. Not yet. Something colder. A nurse adjusted a monitor. The beep did not change. That was the problem. It never changed. Angela pressed her palm against the glass. It was colder than she expected. "Can I see her?" she asked. The doctor nodded. Too quickly this time. The doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the room felt smaller. The air felt heavier. Angela walked to the bedside. Each step measured. Like she was afraid to disturb something invisible. Lila's hand rested on the sheet. Small. Still. Angela did not touch it right away. She looked first. Really looked. Bruises. Not dramatic. Not loud. But there. Quiet marks. Like something had happened and then been cleaned up. Too clean. That was the word. Angela finally reached out. Her fingers brushed Lila's. Warm. That mattered. She held it gently. No squeezing. No shaking. Just contact. The machine beeped again. Same rhythm. Same distance. I am here, Angela whispered. Her voice barely moved. The air. She leaned closer. The faint scent of hospital soap filled her lungs. Under it, something else. Metal. Cold. She pulled back slightly. Her eyes scanned the room. Corners. Surfaces. Everything in place. Too perfect. Something did not belong here. On the tray table, a clear plastic bag sat half folded. Inside it, a piece of fabric. Dark. Wrinkled. Angela stepped toward it. Slow. Careful. Like it might disappear if she moved too fast. She unfolded the bag just enough to see Lila's hoodie. The sleeve stretched slightly at the cuff. Not torn. Just pulled. Like someone had grabbed it. Hard. Angela's jaw tightened. Not anger. Not yet. Recognition. She had seen that kind of stretch before. Not in reports. In real life. She folded the bag back the way she found it. Exact. Precise. No one would know she touched it. That mattered. Footsteps sounded outside the room. 2 sets. Heavy. Not hospital staff. Angela did not turn immediately. She kept her hand on Lila's. Warm. Still. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. A shadow crossed the frosted glass. Then another. Angela finally looked up. The handle did not move. Not yet. The shadows lingered. Waiting. Listening. Angela's eyes shifted to the monitor. Still steady. Too steady. Then back to the door. Her grip on Lila's hand tightened just a fraction. Something was about to be said. Something rehearsed. And Angela already knew it would not match what she saw. The door handle turned slowly, like whoever stood outside did not want to rush it. Angela did not move. Her hand stayed wrapped around Lila's fingers. Warm. Still. The door opened just enough for 2 men to step in. Dark uniforms. Clean lines. One older. One younger. The older one spoke first. Ms. Brooks. His voice was steady. Practiced. The kind that never trembled. Angela did not answer. She watched his eyes instead. They did not go to Lila. Not once. That was the first thing she noticed. The younger officer shifted his weight near the wall. His hand stayed close to his belt. Not resting. Not relaxed. Just there. Like he did not know where else to put them. Something about that felt unfinished. The older officer took 1 step closer to the bed. Careful. Controlled. We understand this is a difficult moment, he said. Angela finally looked at him. Just a glance. Then back to her daughter. What happened? She asked. Same flat tone. Same stillness. The officer paused. A fraction too long. Your daughter was involved in an incident, he said. The word landed wrong again. Incident. It sounded small. Contained. Angela's eyes flicked to the plastic bag on the tray. Then back to him. What kind of incident? She asked. The younger officer's jaw tightened. Just slightly. The older one did not look at him. There was a report of non-compliance, he continued. Each word placed carefully. Like stepping on glass. Angela heard it. Non-compliance. Another clean word. Another gap. She shifted her stance. Not aggressive. Just enough to face him fully now. She is 14, Angela said. No emotion in the sentence. Just fact. The room felt smaller after that. The younger officer looked down for a second. Then back up. Too fast. The older officer inhaled slowly. We are still gathering details, he replied. Gathering. Not knowing. Angela's fingers brushed against Lila's again. Still warm. Still here. That mattered more than their words. But something else mattered too. Something they were not saying. Was your body camera on? Angela asked. The question landed sharper than anything else. The younger officer's head turned slightly. Just enough to betray it. The older officer did not blink. Equipment sometimes malfunctions, he said. Smooth. Ready. Too ready. Angela held his gaze now. Fully. No blinking. No flinch. Both of them, she asked. Silence. Thick. Immediate. The kind that filled the whole room. The younger officer swallowed. You could hear it. Barely. But it was there. The older officer did not answer right away. That was the answer. Angela felt it settle in her chest. Cold. Solid. Not anger. Not yet. Something sharper. Something that did not move. The machine beside Lila beeped again. Same rhythm. Same distance. It cut through the silence like a metronome. Measuring something no one else could hear. Angela turned slightly, adjusting the blanket near Lila's shoulder. Gentle. Precise. Like the officers were not. Even there. Someone saw it, she said quietly. Not a question. A statement. The younger officer's eyes flickered. Just once. The older officer's expression did not change. But his shoulders shifted. A fraction. That was enough. Angela noticed everything now. The way their boots were clean. Too clean for a street call. The way the younger one kept flexing his fingers. The way the older one stood perfectly still. Like control was his job. If there is footage, it will be reviewed, the older officer said. Formal. Distant. Safe. Angela nodded once. Slow. Good, she said. One word. Flat. But it carried weight. More than they expected. The younger officer glanced at her. Really looked this time. Not at her face. At her stillness. At the way she had not raised her voice once. That seemed to unsettle him more than anything else. Angela stepped back half a pace. Still close to the bed. Still grounded. You can go now, she said. Calm. Final. The older officer hesitated. That was new. Then he nodded. Short. Controlled. He turned toward the door. The younger officer followed, but slower. As he reached the doorway, he stopped. Just for a second. He looked back at Lila. Then at Angela. Something passed through his eyes. Not guilt. Not exactly. Something closer to wait. Then he stepped out. The door closed softly behind them. The room returned to its quiet. Too quiet. Angela stood there, listening to the beep. Counting it without realizing. 1. 2. 3. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Once. Then again. She did not reach for it immediately. She let it buzz a third time. Then she pulled it out. Unknown number. No name. Just a message. One line. No punctuation. No greeting. I was there and they lied. The message stayed on the screen longer than it should have. Angela did not blink. Her thumb hovered just above it, not touching, not scrolling. The words felt heavier than they looked. Simple. Direct. No name. No number she recognized. That mattered. She turned the phone slightly, tilting it away from the overhead light. The screen dimmed for a second, then brightened again. Still there. Still real. I was there and they lied. The machine beside Lila kept it steady. Rhythm. It did not react. Nothing in the room did. That silence made the message louder. Angela looked at her daughter. Same stillness. Same breath guided by something artificial. Warm hand in hers. That was real. Everything else felt staged. She tapped the message once. No preview. No follow-up. Just that line. A second later, another vibration. A new message. Short. Even shorter. Do not trust them. Angela's jaw tightened. Not anger. Not fear. Focus. Her eyes moved to the door. Closed. Quiet. No shadows now. No movement behind the glass. That felt temporary. She turned back to the phone. Typed one word. Who? She did not add a question mark. She did not need one. The message sent. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then disappeared. Then came back again. Someone was thinking. Or hesitating. Angela watched the dots like they might tell her something. They did not. They vanished. Nothing came through. That felt worse. She slid the phone into her pocket. Not far. Just enough. Close. Within reach. Always within reach now. She stepped back toward the tray table. The plastic bag sat where she left it. Too neat. Too quiet. She opened it again, slower this time. The fabric inside held its shape. The sleeve stretched at the cuff. Still wrong. Still telling a story no one had said out loud. Her fingers traced the edge without touching it directly. Careful. Like evidence. Like something that could disappear if handled wrong. Footsteps passed outside the room. Lighter this time. Hospital staff. Not them. Angela listened anyway. Counting steps without meaning to. 1. 2. 3. Gone. She folded the bag again. Exact. Precise. Just like before. No one would notice. Unless they were looking for it. That thought stayed with her. Who would be looking? And why? The phone buzzed again. Short. Sharp. Angela pulled it out immediately this time. A new message. Different tone. They turned off the camera. She read it twice. Not because she needed to. Because she wanted to feel it settle. It matched. Too clean before. Now it made sense. Or at least more sense than their words. She typed again. Slower this time. Where are you? The message sent. The 3 dots came back. Faster now. No hesitation. A reply appeared. Close. Angela's eyes lifted from the screen to the door again. Closed. Still. But now it felt different. Not empty. Watched. She moved without thinking. 2 steps to the side. Enough to change her angle to the glass. The hallway outside looked normal. A nurse at the far end. A cart. A flicker of movement near the corner. Too far to see clearly. But someone stood there. Not moving. Not approaching. Just there. Angela lowered the phone slightly. Her reflection overlapped with the hallway. Hard to separate what was real. Hard to tell who was watching who. The figure near the corner shifted. Just enough. A shoulder. A sleeve. Dark. Not hospital scrubs. Not bright enough. The person stepped back into shadow. Gone. Angela did not follow. She did not rush to the door. She stayed where she was. Grounded. Still. That was the difference now. She would not chase. She would let things come to her. The phone vibrated again. Another message. I saw everything. Angela's grip tightened around the device. Not enough to shake. Just enough to feel it. Her eyes went back to Lila. Same stillness. Same breath. The room had not changed. But something outside it had. Something had shifted. Quiet. Invisible. Moving closer. Angela exhaled slowly. One controlled breath. Then another. She typed one more time. Careful. Direct. Then show me. The message sent. No delay. No dots this time. Just a pause. Longer than before. Angela looked at the door again. Waiting. Listening. The handle did not move. But something on the other side did. The pause stretched long enough to feel deliberate. Angela did not look at her phone this time. She watched the door instead. The handle stayed still. The hallway stayed quiet. But something had changed. You could feel it in the air. Like a shift no one announced. The machine beside Lila kept its steady rhythm. 1. 2. 3. Angela matched her breathing to it without realizing. That steadiness mattered. It kept everything from slipping. Her phone buzzed again. Short. Controlled. She lifted it slowly. No rush. No sudden moves. A new message. Not here. Angela's eyes narrowed just a fraction. Not confusion. Calculation. She typed back. Where? The reply came faster than before. Cameras everywhere. Angela's gaze moved instinctively to the corner of the room. Small dome above the door. Silent. Watching. She had not noticed it before. That bothered her. She lowered her phone slightly. The reflection in the glass showed more than just her. It showed the angle. The blind spots. The places where someone could stand and not be seen clearly. That mattered. The phone buzzed again. You walked to the glass twice. Angela did not react outwardly. Not even a blink. But something inside her sharpened. Whoever this was, they were not guessing. They were watching. Or had been. She turned just enough to face the room fully now. Not the door. Not the hallway. The room. She stepped closer to Lila again. Grounding herself. Her hand found her daughter's. Warm. Still. Real. Then how do we talk, she typed. The dots appeared immediately. No hesitation now. You do not. Angela read that twice. The word sat wrong. Too final. Too controlled. Another message came before she could respond. I show you. Angela's grip on the phone tightened. Slight. Controlled. She lifted her eyes toward the door again. Waiting. Listening. Nothing moved. But the feeling stayed. Someone was close. Not just outside. Closer than that. The hallway light flickered faintly. Just once. Angela caught it in the reflection. Small detail. Easy to miss. She did not move toward it. She stayed still, letting the moment unfold. Footsteps approached. Soft. Measured. Not the heavy rhythm from before. These were careful steps. Intentional. The kind that tried not to be heard. Angela's eyes shifted to the frosted glass. A shape formed. Faint. Then clearer. A silhouette. Not broad. Not rigid. Slightly slouched. The handle did not turn. Instead, a soft knock. 2 taps. Then silence. Angela did not answer. She watched. Waited. The silhouette remained. Not leaving. Not forcing entry. That mattered. A second knock. Slower this time. 1 tap. Then another. A pattern. Angela stepped toward the door. Not quickly. Not hesitant. Just enough. Her hand hovered near the handle but did not touch it. She spoke instead. Quiet. Controlled. Who is it? No response. Not with words. But the silhouette shifted. A hand raised slightly. Visible through the frosted glass. 2 fingers extended. Then lowered. Angela frowned. Not confusion. Recognition trying to form. Something about the gesture felt familiar. Not from memory. From instinct. She glanced down at her phone. A new message waited. Open it slowly. Angela looked back at the door. The handle. The shadow. Everything aligned now. Whoever this was, they were both outside and inside her phone. That narrowed things down. Or made them worse. She placed her hand on the handle. Cool metal. Solid. Real. She turned it just enough for the latch to release. The door opened an inch. Then 2. The silhouette became a face. Younger. Mid-20s. Eyes tired. Shoulders tense. The same younger officer from before. The one who had looked back. He did not step in. He stayed in the gap. Like crossing that line meant something. Angela did not move aside. She held the door where it was. Narrow. Controlled. You sent the messages, she said. Not a question. The officer's eyes flicked to the corners of the room. The camera. The hallway. Then back to her. He gave the smallest nod. Barely visible. That was enough. Angela studied him. Really studied him now. The tight jaw. The restless hands. The weight behind his eyes. Not fear. Not exactly. Something heavier. Why, she asked. One word. Direct. The officer swallowed. His voice came out low. Almost lost under the hum of the lights. Because what they wrote is not what happened. Angela did not react. Not outwardly. But her fingers tightened slightly on the door. The machine behind her kept its rhythm. Unchanged. Steady. Like it was waiting too. The officer glanced down the hallway again. Quick. Nervous. Then back at her. I cannot say it here, he added. Angela's gaze hardened just a fraction. Not anger. Decision forming. The officer shifted his weight. 1 step back. Creating space. Not leaving. Just giving her a choice. The hallway light flickered again. Slight. Brief. Angela felt it more than saw it. Something about this moment felt like a line. Once crossed, nothing would go back. She looked at Lila 1 more time. Still. Breathing. Fighting in silence. Then back at the officer. Her hand loosened on the door just enough. And that was when someone else turned the corner at the end of the hall. The figure at the end of the hallway did not rush. That was the first thing Angela noticed. No urgency. No surprise. Just a steady walk toward them. Shoes clicking softly against tile. Measured. Controlled. The younger officer's shoulders stiffened instantly. Subtle, but clear. He stepped half a pace back from the doorway. Not enough to leave. Just enough to create distance. That shift said everything. Angela did not turn fully. She watched through the reflection in the glass instead. The approaching figure came into clearer view. Tall. Broad. Familiar posture. The older officer. The one who never looked at Lila. He stopped about 10 feet away. Not too close. Not too far. Perfect distance to observe without engaging. "Everything all right here?" he asked. His tone was casual. Too casual. The kind of question that already knew the answer. The younger officer did not respond immediately. His hand hovered near his belt again. Not touching. Just close. Angela felt the tension tighten the air between them. She shifted slightly, opening the door just enough to block the view inside. Lila's bed stayed hidden. That mattered now. "He was just leaving," Angela said. Her voice calm. Even. The older officer's eyes flicked to her. Then to the younger one. Then back. He smiled. Small. Controlled. It did not reach his eyes. "Is that so?" he said. The younger officer nodded once. "Too fast." "Yes, sir." His voice came out tighter than before. The older officer took one step closer. The distance shrank. Not aggressively. Just enough to test the space. Angela did not move. She held the door steady. The narrow gap stayed exactly the same. The machine behind her continued its steady rhythm. 1. 2. 3. It cut through everything else. The older officer tilted his head slightly. "You should not be lingering in patient areas," he said. Not to Angela. To the younger officer. Authority wrapped in politeness. The younger officer swallowed again. "Understood," he replied. But he did not move yet. Not fully. That hesitation stretched the moment. Angela caught it. So did the older officer. "Then go," the older one added. Softer this time. That made it heavier. The younger officer shifted his weight. One step back. Then another. He glanced at Angela. Quick. Almost invisible. But it carried something. A warning. Or a promise. Hard to tell which. Then he turned and walked down the hallway. Past the older officer. Not looking back again. The older officer watched him go. Eyes following. Measuring. Then slowly, he turned his attention back to Angela. The silence between them felt different now. Sharper. More deliberate. "You should get some rest," he said. His tone had softened. On the surface. But the edges were still there. Angela did not answer. She kept her hand on the door. Still blocking the room behind her. The older officer's gaze drifted past her shoulder for just a second. Trying to see inside. Angela shifted slightly. Just enough to close that angle. That small movement did not go unnoticed. His eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "We will be in touch," he added. Angela nodded once. No words. The kind of response that gave nothing away. The older officer held her gaze for a moment longer. Then he stepped back. One step. Then another. Creating space again. Releasing pressure without removing it completely. He turned and walked down the hallway. Same measured pace. Same control. Angela watched until he turned the corner. Gone. The hallway returned to its quiet. But it did not feel empty anymore. She closed the door slowly. The latch clicked into place. Solid. Final. For now. The room felt smaller again. The air heavier. Angela leaned her back against the door for a second. Just one. Then she pushed off and moved back to Lila's side. Her hand found her daughter's again. Warm. Still. Real. That anchor held. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She had not realized she was still holding it. A new message. From the same number. She opened it immediately. They are watching him now. Angela's eyes lifted toward the door again. Instinct. Calculation. The hallway beyond it. The older officer. The younger one. Everything connected. Another message came through before she could respond. I cannot come back. Angela's grip tightened. Not panic. Adjustment. Plans shifting. She typed quickly. Then where? The dots appeared. Slower this time. Careful. Then the reply. Parking garage level 2. Angela read it once. Then again. Level 2. Not random. Specific. Deliberate. She glanced at the clock on the wall. Time had moved without her noticing. It always did here. Another message followed. 15 minutes. Angela looked at Lila. Still. Breathing. Fighting quietly. She exhaled slowly. One controlled breath. Then another. Her eyes moved to the door. Then back to her daughter. Choices lined up in silence. One step would change everything. She leaned closer to Lila, her voice barely above a whisper. I will be right back. The machine answered with its steady rhythm. Unchanged. Angela straightened. Her hand lingered for 1 second longer. Then she let go. The warmth stayed behind. She moved toward the door. Slow. Controlled. Her hand reached for the handle. Paused. Just for a second. Then turned. The hallway outside waited. Quiet. Too quiet. And somewhere below, someone was already there. The elevator doors closed with a soft metallic click that echoed longer than it should have. Angela stood alone inside, her reflection stretching across the brushed steel walls. The fluorescent light above flickered once. Then steadied. That flicker stayed with her. She pressed the button for level 2. The panel lit up. No other buttons were pressed. No one else was coming. The elevator began to move. Slow at first. Then steady. The hum filled the small space. It felt too loud. Or maybe everything else was too quiet. Angela kept her eyes on her reflection. Same stillness. Same control. But something had shifted. Not fear. Not doubt. Something colder. More precise. Her phone rested in her hand. Screen dark. Waiting. She did not unlock it. Not yet. The elevator passed one floor. Then another. The numbers changed without sound. That silence felt deliberate. Like the building itself was holding something back. The doors opened with a soft chime. Level 2. The parking garage stretched out in front of her. Wide. Concrete. Low ceiling. Rows of parked Cars under dim lights. The air smelled faintly of oil and dust. Different from the hospital. Heavier. Realer. Angela stepped out. Her shoes echoed softly against the ground. Each step clear. Countable. She slowed without meaning to. Not hesitation. Awareness. Every sound mattered here. Every shadow. A car engine ticked somewhere in the distance. Cooling. Recently used. That detail caught her attention. She turned her head slightly. No movement. Just rows of metal and glass. The lights overhead buzzed faintly. One of them flickered at the far end. Same kind of flicker as before. That felt connected. Her phone buzzed once. She stopped walking. Not in the center. Slightly off to the side. Where a pillar broke the open space. She leaned just enough to keep her back covered. Instinct. The message appeared. Do not stand in the open. Angela glanced around again. The open lanes. The blind corners. The spaces between cars. Too many places to hide. She moved again. Slow. Controlled. Toward a row of parked vehicles. Dark colors. Tinted windows. Reflections everywhere. Hard to see through. Easier to be seen from. She stopped beside a black sedan. The surface reflected her shape in fragments. Broken. Distorted. That felt right for this moment. Her phone buzzed again. 2 rows over. Angela did not turn immediately. She counted her steps instead. 1. 2. 3. Then shifted direction naturally. Not drawing attention. Not rushing. The sound of her shoes blended into the hum of the lights. She passed a silver SUV. Then a pickup truck. The space narrowed slightly. Less open. More controlled. Better. Another buzz. Stop. Angela stopped. Instantly. No hesitation. Her eyes moved slowly. Left. Right. Forward. Nothing obvious. Just stillness. Then a faint sound. A door closing somewhere behind her. Soft. Careful. Not slammed. She did not turn toward it. Not yet. Her reflection in the car window showed movement first. A figure stepping out from behind a concrete pillar. Shoulders slightly hunched. Hands visible. The younger officer. He looked different here. Less composed. More exposed. His uniform jacket was unzipped now. His posture uneven. Like he was carrying something heavy. That no one else could see. Angela turned to face him fully. No sudden movement. No reaction. Just presence. They stood about 15 feet apart. Enough distance to speak. Not enough to hide. The officer glanced over his shoulder. Quick. Checking. Then back at her. You came, he said. His voice low. Rougher than before. Angela did not respond to that. She studied him instead. The tension in his hands. The way his eyes kept moving. Not fear. Not exactly. Pressure. Constant. You said you saw everything, she replied. Calm. Direct. The officer nodded once. Slower this time. More certain. I did. The words hung between them. Heavy. Angela took one step closer. Just one. Closing the gap slightly. Then say it, she said. No emotion. Just clarity. The officer hesitated. His eyes shifted again. Toward the ramp leading up. Toward the entrance. Listening. Measuring risk. Not here, he said. The same words as before. But now they carried more weight. Angela's gaze hardened slightly. Not anger. Expectation. You brought me here, she said. The officer exhaled. Long controlled. Like he had been holding that breath for a while. Because I cannot send it, he replied. Angela's eyes narrowed. Send what? The officer reached slowly toward his jacket. Not fast. Not hidden. Deliberate. Angela's body did not move, but her focus sharpened instantly. Every detail mattered now. He pulled out a small device. Not his phone. Something else. Dark. Compact. He held it up just enough for her to see. This, he said quietly. Angela stared at it. Not blinking. Not reacting outwardly. But inside, something locked into place. The officer stepped forward half a pace. Still keeping distance. Still aware of the space around them. It recorded everything, he added. Angela's grip tightened slightly at her side. Not visible. But there. The lights above them buzzed again. One flickered. Then steadied. The sound of a car engine echoed faintly from the upper level. Closer this time. The officer heard it too. His head turned sharply toward the ramp. Then back at Angela. Faster now. We do not have much time, he said. Angela took another step forward. Closing the distance further. The device in. His hand did not shake. But his fingers did. Just slightly. That told her everything. This was real. This was risk. This was the line. The engine sound grew louder. Tires rolling over concrete above them. Approaching. The officer lowered his voice even more. Almost a whisper now. If they find this, it disappears. Angela reached out. Slowly. Not grabbing. Not rushing. Her fingers stopping just inches from the device. The space between them felt charged. Like something was about to shift again. The sound of footsteps echoed from the far end of the garage. Not one set. More than one. Angela did not look away from the device. But she heard it. Counted it. Measured it. And the officer's hand tightened just as the shadows started to move. The footsteps did not rush. That was the problem. They came steady. Confident. Like whoever they belonged to already knew what they would find. Angela did not pull her hand back. She held it there, inches from the device. The younger officer's fingers tightened around it for a split second. Then loosened. A decision made without words. He placed it in her hand. Small. Solid. Warmer than she expected. Real. The moment it left his grip, something shifted. The balance changed. The officer stepped back half a pace. Creating distance. Creating separation. That mattered now. The footsteps grew louder. 2 sets. Maybe 3. Hard to tell against the echo. Angela did not look toward them. Not yet. Her fingers closed around the device. Firm. Controlled. She slid it into her coat pocket in one smooth motion. No hesitation. No second guess. Gone. The officer watched her do it. His eyes flicked to her pocket, then back to her face. Something like relief passed through him. Brief. Gone just as fast. Do not open it here, he said quietly. Angela gave the smallest nod. Not agreement. Acknowledgement. The sound of shoes on concrete echoed closer now. Around the corner. Angela turned her head slightly. Enough to catch the reflection in a nearby car window. Shadows stretched across the floor. Elongated. Distorted. 3 figures. Not rushing. Not hiding. Just approaching. The officer exhaled slowly. "They think I left," he said under his breath. Angela did not respond. Her focus shifted outward now. Environment. Angles. Distance. Options. The garage suddenly felt smaller. More confined. Less escape. A car door slammed somewhere above them. The sound bounced down the ramp. Louder than it should have been. It covered something else. Another step. Closer. Angela took 1 step to the side. Not backward. Not forward. Just enough to change her line of sight. The officer mirrored her without thinking. That told her something. He was not leading this anymore. She was. The shadows reached the edge of the row. Then stopped. A voice followed. Calm. Familiar. "You should not be down here." The older officer stepped into view. Same posture. Same control. But now there was no hallway. No walls. Just open concrete. Less protection. 2 other officers stood behind him. Silent. Watching. Angela faced them fully now. Shoulders square. Stillness intact. "I needed air," she said. Simple. Flat. The older officer's eyes moved over her. Quick scan. Hands. Pockets. Face. Nothing lingered. But nothing was missed. "Hospitals have plenty of that upstairs," he replied. A faint smile touched his lips. It did not stay. Angela said nothing. Silence stretched again. The younger officer shifted slightly behind her. Not stepping forward. Not stepping away. Just there. That tension was visible now. Even to them. The older officer's gaze flicked to him. Just once. Enough. "Everything okay, Blake?" he asked. The name landed clearly. Ethan Blake. The younger officer straightened slightly. "Yes, sir." His voice steadier this time. Too steady. Angela caught that. So did the older officer. A beat passed. Then another. The hum of the lights filled the space. One of them flickered again. Brief. Unstable. "You should head back up," the older officer said. This time to Angela. Not a suggestion. Not quite an order. Something in between. Angela did not move. Her hand remained at her side. Close to her coat pocket. Not touching it. But aware of it. Always aware now. "I will," she said. No rush. No resistance. Just control. The older officer studied her for a moment longer. Something behind his eyes shifted. Calculation. He stepped closer. One slow step. Reducing the space between them. Angela held her ground. Did not step back. Did not adjust. The younger officer behind her tensed again. Subtle. But there. "You know," the older officer said quietly, "these situations can get complicated fast." His voice dropped slightly. Softer. More personal. That made it more dangerous. Angela met his gaze. Unblinking. "They already are," she replied. The words landed clean. No edge. No rise. Just truth. The older officer held her eyes for a second longer. Then something changed. Not on the surface. Deeper. He stepped back. releasing the pressure again. Then let us keep them simple, he said. Angela did not answer. The silence said enough. One of the officers behind him shifted his stance. Foot scraping lightly against concrete. Small sound. Big signal. Time was moving again. The moment was closing. Angela turned slightly. Not away. Just enough to signal movement. Forward. Controlled. She began to walk past them. Not rushing. Not hesitant. Each step measured. The space between them tightened as she passed. No one reached out. No one stopped her. But every eye followed. The weight of it stayed on her back. Heavy. Constant. She reached the end of the row. The ramp ahead leading upward. Light brighter there. Cleaner. Safer. Or at least it looked that way. Her phone buzzed once. Soft. Quick. She did not stop. Did not reach for it. Not yet. Behind her, the footsteps did not follow. Not immediately. That mattered. For now. Angela kept walking. Each step carrying her closer to the light. But something behind her had not let go. Not yet. And the message waiting in her pocket had already changed everything. The ramp felt longer on the way up. Each step echoed behind Angela, softer now, but still there. Not following. Just lingering in memory. The light at the top grew brighter with every step. Clean. White. Almost blinding after the dim garage. Her phone buzzed again. This time she reached for it. Not stopping. Not slowing. She unlocked the screen with one smooth motion. A new message waited. Do not go back to the room yet. Angela's pace did not change, but something inside her did. That instruction landed differently. Not a warning. A move. She stepped onto the main floor. The air changed instantly. Cooler. Filtered. The scent of disinfectant returned. Familiar. Controlled. The elevator stood ahead. Doors closed. Silent. Waiting. Angela stopped in front of it. Not pressing the button. Not yet. Her eyes scanned the lobby reflection in the polished metal doors. People moved in the distance. Nurses. Visitors. Ordinary motion. But something about it felt staged now. Like a surface hiding something deeper. Her phone buzzed again. They will check the room. Angela's gaze shifted slightly to the hallway leading back to Lila. Long straight. Too exposed. She could see part of the corridor from here. A nurse pushing a cart. A man sitting in a chair. Nothing unusual. That was the problem. Everything looked normal. She typed quickly. How long? The reply came faster than expected. Soon. Angela's jaw tightened just a fraction. Timing mattered now. She stepped away from the elevator. Not toward the hallway. Sideways. Toward a row of chairs near the waiting area. She sat down. Calm. Controlled. Like someone waiting for news. Like nothing had changed. Her hands rested in her lap. Still. But her eyes moved. Tracking reflections. Angles. Movement. A man in a suit stood near the reception desk. Talking quietly. His back turned. A nurse passed behind him. No eye contact. No pause. Everything continued. Smooth. Uninterrupted. Too smooth. Angela's phone buzzed again. Watch the door. She shifted her gaze without moving her head. The hallway entrance. The double doors leading to patient rooms. They opened once. A nurse exited. Pushed a cart. Doors closed again. Seconds passed. Then the doors opened again. This time slower. 2 officers stepped out. Not rushing. Not speaking. The older one. And another. Not Blake. Angela's focus sharpened instantly. They walked with purpose. Direct. Not scanning. They already knew where they were going. Down the hallway she had just left. Angela did not move. She watched through the reflection in a glass panel across the room. The officers disappeared around the corner. Toward Lila's room. Her fingers tightened slightly against her coat. The device pressed faintly. Against her side. Still there. Still hidden. The phone buzzed again. You see them? Not a question. Angela typed back. Yes. A pause. Then the reply. Wait. Angela exhaled slowly. One breath. Controlled. She leaned back slightly in the chair. Adjusting her posture. Blending in. Just another person waiting. Nothing more. But her eyes stayed fixed on the reflection. The hallway entrance. Time stretched again. Each second longer than the last. The doors stayed closed. No movement. No sign. Then a faint sound. Hard to hear over the ambient noise. But there. A distant door opening. Then closing. Angela felt it more than heard it. Something was happening down that corridor. Something she could not see. Her phone buzzed again. Short. Sharp. She looked down. They are inside now. Angela's grip tightened. Not panic. Precision. Every detail mattered now. She pictured the room. The tray. The plastic bag. The bed. The space she had left behind. Everything exactly as it was. Or as they would find it. Another message appeared. They are looking for something. Angela's eyes lifted again. Fixed on the hallway. The doors remained closed. Silent. But the silence had weight now. Heavy. Pressing. She typed slowly this time. Careful. What? The reply did not come immediately. That pause felt longer than any before. Angela counted her breaths. 1. 2. 3. 4. The message finally appeared. Just one line. What you have. Angela did not react outwardly. Not a muscle moved. But inside, everything locked into place. This was no longer just about the truth. It was about control. Possession. Evidence. The balance had shifted again. And she was now holding something they needed. The doors at the hallway entrance opened suddenly. One of the officers stepped out. Not the older one. The other. His pace faster now. Less controlled. He looked around briefly. Then moved toward the front desk. Angela lowered her gaze instantly. Just another waiting face. Invisible. The officer spoke quietly to the receptionist. Too far to hear. But his body language said enough. Urgent. Focused. Searching. Angela's phone buzzed again. One last message. Do not let them take it. She read it once. Then. Locked her screen. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass panel across the room. Same stillness. Same control. But now there was something else behind it. Something sharper. The hallway doors opened again. And this time, the older officer stepped out looking straight toward her. The moment their eyes met, Angela knew he had already decided something. The older officer did not stop walking. Not even for a second. His pace stayed steady, controlled, like every step had been planned before he left the hallway. Angela did not look away. That would have been a mistake. She held his gaze through the reflection first, then directly as he approached. Her posture did not change. Still seated. Still calm. Just another person waiting. The distance between them closed slowly. 10 feet. 8. 6. The noise of the lobby continued around them. Phones ringing. Soft conversations. Footsteps. None of it touched the space between them. The officer stopped 3 feet away. Close enough to speak without raising his voice. Close enough to observe everything. "Ms. Brooks," he said. Same tone as before. Polished. Controlled. Angela looked up at him. No rush. No tension in her face. "Officer," she replied. One word. Even. The officer's eyes moved briefly over her. Her hands. Her coat. Her posture. Quick. Efficient. He was searching without appearing to search. That mattered. "You stepped out," he said. Not a question. Angela nodded once. "I needed air." Same answer. Same tone. The officer studied her for a moment. Something behind his eyes sharpened. "We just spoke with the attending staff," he said. Angela did not respond immediately. She let the silence sit. Then she asked, "And?" The officer tilted his head slightly. "A small shift. There are some inconsistencies," he replied. The word landed carefully. Angela held his gaze. "In what?" The officer's lips pressed together for a fraction of a second. Then released. "In the timeline," he said. Angela's fingers remained still in her lap. But her attention narrowed. Timeline. Not injuries. Not facts. Time. That was what they were adjusting. "Things get confusing," she said quietly. "Especially when people are not telling the same story." The officer's expression did not change. But something in his posture tightened. Just a fraction. Enough to notice. "That is exactly why we are here," he said. Angela leaned back slightly in her chair. Controlled. Measured. "To clarify?" she asked. The officer nodded once. "To understand." Angela let out a small breath. Almost a laugh. But not quite. "Understanding usually comes after honesty," she said. The words hung in the air. Not aggressive. Not loud. Just precise. The officer's eyes held hers. Longer this time. Testing. Measuring. Behind him, the other officer shifted his stance. Slight movement. Restless. Angela did not look at him. She kept her focus on the one in front of her. That was the center. That was where decisions were made. "We would like you to come back to the room," the older officer said. His tone softened slightly. Not a request. Not fully. Something in between. Angela tilted her head just a little. Considering. Why? The question came simple. Direct. The officer paused. That pause again. It always came before something important. "There are items we need to review," he said. Angela's gaze did not break. "What items?" Another pause. Shorter this time. "Personal belongings," he replied. The word sounded neutral. Safe. But they carried weight. Angela felt it immediately. Her coat pocket. The device. The shift in control. She nodded slowly. As if processing. As if deciding. Of course, she said. Her tone calm. Agreeable. But something beneath it had changed. The officer watched her closely now. Waiting for movement. For hesitation. For anything that did not align. Angela placed her hands on her knees and stood up. Smooth. Controlled. No rush. No stiffness. Just movement. She adjusted her coat slightly. Natural. Casual. The device pressed lightly against her side. Still hidden. Still hers. The officer stepped back half a pace. Creating space for her to move. But his eyes never left her. Not even for a second. They began walking together toward the hallway. Side by side, but not equal. Never equal. The floor beneath their feet felt louder now. Each step echoing more than before. Angela matched his pace exactly. Not faster. Not slower. That balance mattered. Halfway to the doors, her phone buzzed again. She did not reach for it. Not now. Not in front of him. But she felt it. The weight of it. The message waiting. The unseen layer beneath this moment. They reached the hallway entrance. The double doors stood ahead. Closed. Silent. The officer pushed one open. Held it just enough for her to pass through first. A gesture of courtesy. Or control. Hard to tell which. Angela stepped inside. The air shifted again. Cooler. Quieter. The corridor stretched ahead. Long straight. Too clean. The same as before. But different now. Every step carried more weight. The officer walked just behind her. Close enough to watch. Not close enough to touch. Angela's eyes moved ahead. Toward Lila's room. Toward whatever waited there now. The machine's distant rhythm echoed faintly through the hall. Still steady. Still unchanged. That steadiness grounded her. She reached the door. Her hand lifted toward the handle. Paused for a fraction of a second. Then turned it. The door opened slowly. And the first thing she noticed was that something inside the room was no longer where she left it. The tray table looked untouched at first glance. Clean. Aligned. Exactly how she left it. But something about it felt wrong. Angela stepped inside slowly, her eyes scanning without turning her head. The air felt tighter. The machine beside Lila still beeped in that same steady rhythm. 1. 2. 3. Unchanged. That was the only thing that had not shifted. The older officer stayed just behind her. Close enough to observe. Far enough to avoid contact. Go ahead, he said quietly. Angela did not respond. She moved toward the bed instead. Each step measured. Controlled. Her hand reached for Lila's again. Warm. Still. Real. That anchor held. But everything else in the room had shifted slightly. Not enough for someone rushing. Enough for someone looking. The tray. The chair. The curtain. Small changes. Subtle. Intentional. Angela's eyes moved to the tray table again. The plastic bag sat there. Folded. Neat. But not the same. The angle was off. Just a few degrees. Most would not notice. She did. Her fingers brushed the edge of the table lightly. Not opening the bag. Not yet. Just feeling the placement. Someone had touched it. Carefully. Trying not to leave a trace. But the precision was wrong. Too exact. Too deliberate. The older officer stepped slightly to the side. Changing his angle. Trying to see what she saw. Angela turned just enough to block that line again. Natural. Casual. Invisible to most. Not to him. Everything here seems in order, he said. His voice calm. Even. But it carried a question beneath it. Angela kept her eyes on the bag. Does it? She replied. Not a question. The officer did not answer immediately. That pause again. Always the pause. Angela reached for the plastic bag. Slow. Careful. She lifted it just enough to feel the weight. Same hoodie. Same fabric. But something else. Lighter. Barely noticeable. Unless you were looking for it. She set it back down exactly where it had been. No reaction. No change in her face. But inside, the conclusion settled. They had checked. They had expected something to be there. And it was not. The officer behind her shifted his stance. Subtle. But tighter now. His attention sharpened. He stepped closer. One pace. Reducing the space. If there is anything missing, he said quietly, it would be best to mention it now. The words landed softly. But they were not soft. Angela turned to face him fully. Her expression unchanged. Calm. Steady. Nothing is missing, she said. The truth. Just not the whole truth. The officer studied her. Longer this time. Searching for cracks. For hesitation. For anything that did not align. He found nothing. That unsettled him more than if she had reacted. The machine beeped again. 1. 2. 3. The rhythm cut through the moment. Grounding. Separating. Angela glanced back at Lila. Just for a second. Then back at him. You said you needed to review personal belongings, she said. You have. The officer's jaw tightened slightly. Barely visible. But there. We are thorough, he replied. Angela nodded once. So am I. The words hung in the space between them. Not aggressive. Not defensive. Just clear. The officer's eyes flicked briefly to her coat. Quick. Almost invisible. But she saw it. That was where. His focus had shifted. That was where the real question lived. Angela adjusted her coat slightly. Smooth. Natural. The movement revealed nothing. But it confirmed everything. The officer took another step closer. Now within arm's reach. The distance had changed. The tone with it. You understand, he said quietly, that withholding information could complicate things. Angela held his gaze. Unblinking. I understand that information gets complicated when it is changed, she replied. The words landed clean. Precise. No emotion attached. The officer's expression hardened just a fraction. Not visible to most. But enough. Behind him, the second officer shifted again. Restless. The room felt smaller. Tighter. Like the walls had moved in. Angela stepped back half a pace. Not retreating. Creating space. Control. Her hand rested lightly on the bed rail. Grounded. The officer did not follow immediately. That pause mattered. It meant he was recalculating. Adjusting. The balance had shifted again. And he felt it. The silence stretched. Heavy. Then his phone buzzed. Sharp. Sudden. He glanced down at it. Just for a second. That second was enough. Angela saw the change in his face. Subtle. Immediate. Something had just moved beyond this room. Something bigger. He looked back up at her. The control returned. But it was thinner now. More forced. "We may need to continue this conversation later," he said. Angela nodded once. "I will be here." Simple. Direct. Final. The officer held her gaze for one last moment. Then he stepped back. Turning toward the door. The other officer followed. Quick. Silent. The door opened. Then closed behind them. The room returned to its quiet. But it was not the same quiet as before. Angela stood there for a second. Then two. The machine kept its rhythm. Unchanged. She reached into her coat pocket slowly. Careful. Deliberate. Her fingers wrapped around the device again. Solid. Real. Still hers. Her phone buzzed at the same time. She pulled it out with her other hand. A new message waited. Just one line. No delay. No hesitation. They know it is gone. Angela read the message once, then again, letting it settle without reacting. Her face stayed still. Her breathing stayed even. But something inside her shifted again. Not fear. Not urgency. Precision. She slipped the phone back into her pocket without replying. No need. The message had already done its job. She turned her attention back to Lila. Same stillness. Same quiet fight. The machine kept its steady rhythm. 1. 2. 3. That sound grounded everything. Angela moved closer to the bed. Her hand rested lightly on the blanket this time. Not gripping. Just contact. "I am still here," she whispered. Barely audible. The room held the words for a second. Then let them fade. She straightened slowly. Her other hand remained inside her coat pocket. Fingers wrapped around the device. Solid. Real. The weight of it felt different now. Not just evidence. Leverage. The door remained closed. No footsteps outside. No shadows crossing the glass. That silence felt temporary. Angela stepped toward the tray table again. The plastic bag sat exactly where she left it. But now it looked smaller. Less important. A distraction. That was what they had expected her to focus on. That was what they had checked. She did not touch it this time. No need. She already knew what mattered. Her phone buzzed again. Short. Controlled. She pulled it out slowly. Another message. They will not stop. Angela read it without blinking. Then another message followed. They will ask you to hand it over. She exhaled once. Quiet. Measured. That was expected. Already happening. She typed back. Then what? The reply came almost instantly. You do not give it to them. Angela's gaze shifted toward the door. Still closed. Still quiet. But now it felt closer. Like something was pressing against the other side. Waiting. She typed again. What do I do? This time, the dots took longer to appear. Then they vanished. Then came back. Whoever was on the other end was thinking. Choosing carefully. The answer mattered now. Finally, the message appeared. You make them choose. Angela's eyes narrowed just a fraction. Not confusion. Recognition forming. That line meant something. Not just action. Strategy. She looked down at the device in her pocket. Then back at Lila. Then toward the door. Everything aligned in That moment. Control was not about hiding anymore. It was about forcing the truth into the open. She stepped toward the window. The thin slit of glass beside the door. The hallway beyond it. Empty for now. But not for long. Her reflection stared back at her. Same stillness. Same calm. But now there was something else. Intention. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the device. Small. Dark. Unassuming. She held it in her palm. Turned it slightly. No lights. No sound. Just potential. She did not turn it on. Not yet. The phone buzzed again. Do not wait too long. Angela glanced at the message. Then locked the screen. Enough instructions. The rest was hers. She moved back toward the bed one last time. Her hand brushed Lila's again. Warm. Still. Fighting quietly. I will fix this, she said softly. Not a promise. A decision. The machine answered with its steady rhythm. 1. 2. 3. Angela stepped back. Straightened her coat. The device disappeared into her pocket again. Hidden. Protected. For now. Her hand reached for the door handle. Cool metal. Solid. She paused. Just for a second. Not hesitation. Calculation. The hallway beyond. The officers. The system pressing in. Everything waiting for her next move. She turned the handle slowly. The latch released. The door opened a few inches. Light from the hallway spilled into the room. Angela stepped forward. Not as someone being called. Not as someone reacting. But as someone choosing the next move. And just outside, the older officer was already standing there, like he had been waiting the entire time. The door opened just enough for the light to cut across his face. The older officer did not step back. He stood there, exactly where she expected him to be. Waiting. Watching. Calculating. Angela did not stop. She opened the door wider and stepped into the hallway, closing the distance on her own terms. That changed the balance immediately. He noticed. His posture adjusted by a fraction. Ms. Brooks, he said quietly. No greeting this time. No softness. Just control. Angela met his eyes. Unblinking. You were going to come back in, she replied. Not a question. The officer's lips pressed together for a moment. Then released. We need to talk, he said. Angela nodded once. We do. The hallway behind him remained empty. Too empty. The silence stretched between them, but it was not the same silence as before. This one had weight. Pressure. Decision. The officer glanced briefly past her shoulder. Toward the room. Toward Lila. Then back to her. There are procedures, he began. Angela cut him off. Not loudly. Not aggressively. Just precisely. You already broke them. The words landed clean. No emotion. Just truth. The officer held her gaze. Longer this time. Testing. Measuring. But something had shifted. He was no longer fully in control of the space. Angela reached into her coat pocket slowly. Deliberate. Visible. The officer's eyes dropped to her hand instantly. His shoulders tightened. The air between them sharpened. Angela pulled out the device. Small. Dark. Silent. She held it up just enough for him to see. Nothing more. His reaction was immediate. Not outward. Not obvious. But there. A flicker in his eyes. A tightening in his jaw. Recognition. Confirmation. "This is what you were looking for," Angela said. Calm. Even. The officer did not answer. He did not deny it. That silence said everything. Behind him, footsteps echoed faintly at the far end of the hallway. Not close yet. But coming. Angela did not look away from him. "You have two choices," she continued. Her voice stayed low. Controlled. Each word placed carefully. The officer's gaze sharpened. He was listening now. Fully. No more deflection. No more delay. "You take this," Angela said, lifting the device slightly, "and it disappears." The officer's eyes did not leave it. Not even for a second. "Or," she added, her hand steady, "you let it be seen." The hallway seemed to shrink around them. The sound of footsteps grew closer. Still distant. But enough to matter. The officer exhaled slowly. Controlled. His mind moving fast behind still eyes. Calculating outcomes. Risks. Exposure. Angela did not rush him. That was the point. This was not about speed. This was about choice. Real choice. The kind that forced something honest out of someone who had been avoiding it. The machine inside the room beeped faintly. Through the open door. 1. 2. 3. The sound carried into the hallway. Steady. Unchanged. It cut through everything else. The officer heard it. His eyes flicked toward the room again. Just for a second. Then back to Angela. Something shifted there. Small. But real. The footsteps behind him grew louder now. 2 officers approaching. Angela could see their shadows stretching along the wall. Time was closing. The moment was narrowing. She lowered the device slightly. Not hiding it. Just holding it closer. More personal now. "You do not need to protect them," she said quietly. The words were not an accusation. Not an attack. Just an opening. The officer's jaw tightened again. But this time, it did not hold. It loosened. Just enough. Angela saw it. The crack. The first real break in the control he had been holding. The footsteps reached the corner. Just seconds away from turning into the hallway. The officer looked at the device one more time. Then at Angela. Really looked this time. Not as a problem. Not as a situation. But as a person standing in front of him with something real. Something undeniable. Something he could not rewrite. The silence stretched one last time. Then he made a decision. Not with words. Not yet. But with something smaller. His hand moved. Slow. Careful. Not reaching for the device. Reaching for his radio. Angela watched every inch of that movement. Every detail. Every shift. The footsteps behind him turned the corner. The other officers came into view. And the older officer spoke into the radio with a voice that did not sound the same anymore.